Welcome back! We are going to look at the ship's database, which is quite extensive, so this might take a while. I'll probably not do anything else in this video, so if you're not interested in me reading the database and just want to get on with the game, feel free to skip this video. There is some information in the database that we will need, though. Let's take a look at the entity database. DNA sequencing. That's just for instant data card, which we already did, and since I still remember the guy's name, I don't need to do that again. So we go back. Known races. A through E. The Andromedan Decapus. Extinct. C. Coronian Tentacular Slimesucker. Oh, that's short. Andromedans. These repugnant creatures are known for their mohawk dews and their well-developed prehensile snouts, with which they can pick up small objects, give themselves neck rubs, and unleash projectile mucosa at enemies. The most famous Andromedans are the two guys who rose above their humble Andromedan beginnings to become two of the most popular and successful game designers in the galaxy. And they're humble, too. They were once kidnapped and pressed into servitude by the notorious Scumsoft Corporation, but were later rescued by an unidentified worker. Hey, that was us! Most Andromedans prefer flavored foreign coffees, such as hazelnut mocha mistake and vanilla cottage cheese. Well, to each their own, I guess. Big Dealers. The primary civilization of the planet Mega Big Deal in the Sector B subcluster. See Coronian Killer Mammal. The Bicranial Crotch Snorter. Imagine a crotch snorter, only with a bifurcated cranium. Bicranial crotch snorters are limber, simian creatures with frontal lobes the size of Talosian binary casabas. These are very useful comparisons they're giving here. One would assume this makes them smarter than the average simian. One would be very wrong. Bicranial crotch snorters prove the old adage that it's not how big your brain is, it's what you do with it. Just like their monocranial cousins, they spent most of their time snorting crud and then hacking it out again in extended coughing fits that often last up to 12 hours. While they're not gagging and choking, bicranial crotch snorters enjoy swimming, cycling, jazz, and eating gibberellian dust mites. What is this, a private ad? There's more. The Bjorn. We actually missed an opportunity to look at those in the streets of Polosorbate, I think. They are sort of like the Borg, except they have a coffee pot on their head. You could see them walking around in a couple of the videos. The Bjorn, a race of half-humanoid, half-kitchen appliance creatures, are the scourge of the known universe. The Bjorn seek out civilizations in order to assimilate them. The collective knowledge of each civilization is then applied to the task of creating newer, shinier kitchen appliances. This is how the Presto Hot Dogger and Daisy's Seal-A-Meal were invented. So they're basically like the Borg, except even more evil. The leader of the Bjorn is the toaster-skulled Nocuticlus. Starcom has posted a reward for the deactivation of Nocuticlus, who may be recognized by a socket just below the interior crust control. This socket is typically used to connect Nocuticlus to various power sources in order to recharge him and, through him, the entire Bjorn collective. The great irony is that the Bjorn never spent any time in the kitchen, preferring to send out. They eat a peculiar mixture of batteries, nuts, bolts, and pre-processed organic sludge. Good to know, I guess. The Berthnik Boulder Beaver. The herbivorous Boulder Beaver is most recognizable for its powerful prehensile tail. Unlike the tails of most beavers, which are strong enough to fling mud, the Boulder Beaver can use his tail to bench about 40 pounds for 3 sets of 15 reps without even stopping for a fruit-flavored sports beverage. Impressive, I guess. Hence it can, in fact, create a dam out of boulders of nearly any other material, including molten steel, lava, and stellar core fragments. The beaver prefers to eat the sweet, spicy leaves of the creepy habanero eucalyptus vine. Replicator number... blah blah blah. Don't bother writing all of these down, there's actually only one code which works, and I'll show you later. The Urnan Sea Urchin. The Urnan Sea Urchin is a pitiful little creature and doesn't really care who knows it. It cries constantly, which was only recently discovered since the creature lives underwater. It's an emo, then. It also refuses to play with the other sea urchins. However, some of its feelings are understandable. After all, it's just about the ugliest sucker on Urnin. Its spiny quills make romance a tedious and impractical affair, and its gonads are highly prized as sushi. This would make you cranky too. Indeed it would. Astrosian sea slugs. That sounds familiar. The multi-tentacled sea slug is a large, menacing carnivore with a squid-like beak. Its spectacular adaptive abilities and matchless ferocity ensure that it can easily survive for extended periods underwater, or land, or in space. Yeah, that's really likely from an evolutionary standpoint. However, due to its numerous disgusting habits and unrestrained lifestyle, the Astrosian sea slug would not hold up for more than 5 minutes under the scrutiny of liberal media. Okay. Astrosian sea slugs eat all manner of creatures, particularly aquatic ones. Their favorite food of all, though, is the latex babe of Estros. It's the slug we beat in Space Quest 4. And it goes back. Okay, I guess that was the first category. So let's go to F through M. I told you this database was extensive. We're actually starting at the G now, but anyway. The Golanian gutter rats. Golanian gutter rats are so slimy, sniveling, and nasty that they give a bad name to all other gutter rats. That's impressive. But of all their despicable habits, the worst is the fact that they're the lousiest bowlers in the galaxy. Hence their name. Sure, that makes sense. Not only do they rarely break 100, but they talk loud and cuss when other people are seriously trying to bowl. Their preferred diet is the bowling alley combo: French fries, burgers, hot dogs, and beer. Good to know. Green slime. Half animal, half vegetable, and half lousy mathematician, the green slime of Xenon is a vague byproduct of industrial waste and organic compounds combined with a powerful electric charge. The resulting lifeform is a slow-moving mass of gelatinous, acidic protoplasm with simple reflexes and a voracious appetite. This makes it ideally suited to dissolving locks and appearing in bad horror movies. Green slime will eat anything in its path, dissolving it quickly, but not painlessly. Bizarrely, it has no such effect on glass, making it ultra-convenient to carry around bits of green slime in an ordinary jar, and indeed, it was marketed that way, under the name Face Be Gone. Orc City! That's the slime from Space Quest 4. Grell! Another creature we've heard of before. At one time, many eons ago, Grell were the primary inhabitants of Corona. Artifacts and ruins have revealed much about them. They were creatures of immense size, towering some 30 to 40 meters tall. They were extremely ugly and couldn't bear to look at one another, which is why their race died out entirely. They were hunter-gatherers, preferring hunting gatherers to gathering hunters. Sure. Coronian Tentacular Slimesucker. The Corona Tentacular Slimesucker, which lives deep in the subterranean caverns of Corona, has never been seen by anybody who's lived to provide a complete description. Yes, it has. We've seen it. All that has ever been seen are their slimy tentacles, which are tentacled-like and slimy, resembling tentacle-like slimy tentacles. Anything finding its way into these tentacles is first slimed, then devoured. Actually, we haven't actually seen more of it than that, so I guess they're right. This is an appropriate moment to note that tentacles comes from the root 10 tickles, since the Andromedan decapus, which its 10 serpentine flexible appendages, tickled its foes to death. The horror. That's just another fun fact to know and tell, even though it's completely wrong. More. Coronian Killer Mammal. The Coronian Killer Mammal has an undeservedly fierce reputation, due primarily to its name, or rather, to what its name has become over the course of generations of sloppy pronunciation. Originally known as the lonely and bewildered sandbill, the Coronian Killer Mammal is a gentle, slow-moving herbivorous insect that would rather squash itself than come into contact with any other lifeform. These tiny introverted creatures are native to the planet Omega Big Deal, the only planet with the distinction of having its entire civilization flunk phonics. Yeah, I guess you'd have to flunk it quite badly to mangle up that name that badly. This lack of linguistic agility is said to account for the distortion of the sandbill's name, although another theory has been put forth that the killer mammal appellation is merely due to centuries of sarcasm. The A Coronian killer mammal eats dust mites. Lots and lots of them. Useful to know. Not. Coronians! They're the blue dudes from Space Quest 1. The sentient civilization of Corona consists of the Coronians, a secretive and shy race of scholarly old men. They devote their lives to the pursuit and dissemination of knowledge. How can an entire race consist of scholarly old men? Conversations with Coronians are liable to be dry, peppered with obscure and dull references to places and people you've never heard of, and full of self-congratulatory rhetoric. So it's basically like talking to me. Most members of Mensa are Coronians. Sure. Most Coronians are vegans and prefer the local flora. Replicator number... Okay, I'm not actually going to read all those. However, some Coronians eat their own young, just so they can knowingly say, "Oh yes, I have done that, we taste like chicken." Man, they sound like assholes. The Killer Cave Beaver! This beaver's eyesight is among the worst in the galaxy, matched only by the giant cataract bear of Pestilon and the blind plummeting mountain goat of Andromeda. Although the cave beaver is herbivorous, it frequently accidentally kills other creatures because up close they all look like tree trunks. It's only after the beaver has chewed its way through the nearest sturdy limb that it discovers the limb is some creature's arm or leg, thus the dams made by the killer cave beaver are quite disgusting. The killer cave beaver's favorite food is clinging girlfriend Ivy. Sure. The Labian cave squid. I think we met one of those in Space Quest 2. The Labian cave squid is a fish-like mammal which has not yet realized that it's a land dweller. Thus it still tends to squirt ink, which lies ineffectively in a puddle on the ground and gets on the bottom of your boots. It also uses typical squid-like flexing motions to propel itself, a very inefficient mode of transportation when moving through rocky tunnels. So the Labian cave squid gets a lot of nasty cuts and scrapes as it tries to frog kick its way across rough stone floor. This makes it more cranky than ever. The cave squid is also frightened by both humanoids and light, since it thinks it's still in the murky depths of deep Labian swamps. Don't confuse it by approaching it. It will happily crush you, rather than be forced to question its reality. It will also eat you, if given the opportunity. We didn't actually encounter those in Space Quest 2 because I remembered how to get through the caves. If you go wrong there, you'll encounter one of those. The Labian Root Monster. A direct descendant of the Venus buggerfly, the Labian Root Monster is a carnivorous plant with roots both above and below ground. The underground roots absorb water and nutrients normally, but the soil of Labian is nitrogen poor, so the above-ground roots collect nitrogen by capturing and digesting small stupid animals, or larger, stupider ones, such as certain janitors we know. When disturbed, the roots wrap around the luckless creature and convey it to the central sac, wherein lie the digestive juices and spike-like cilia that reduce the creature to a pulp-like consistency. At this point, the root monster exudes nitrogen like a Clorox 2 beam blatter at the Gilroy 9 Garlic Festival. The Labian root monster is best observed at a distance, or in the highly acclaimed VidCard series, The Trials of Grotesque Alien Animal Behavior, by highly acclaimed naturalist Dr. David Attenborough. Clever. The Labian Swamp Slurpee. A lot of Labian entries here. The Swamp Slurpee is believed to be a hideous, grotesque half-fish, half-reptile. Nobody's quite sure because nobody who's seen one up close has ever lived to describe it. Hey, where have you heard that before? Witnesses are usually found slightly decapitated or with a modest discount in the cranial region. We can only assume they eat everyone and everything. A fair assumption, I guess. They should have at least mentioned that they'll spit you out if you taste of berries. The Labian Terror Beast. The Terror Beast is aptly named since it spends most of its life in terror. Although the Terror Beast could easily defeat a humanoid, it usually avoids conflict unless faced with a particularly wimpy opponent. Oh gee, that really paints Roger in a good light. Most of its time is spent keeping to itself, avoiding public appearances and banquets. Its preferred diet is composed mainly of the roots of the star-shock bush. Terror beasts are born with extremely powerful leg muscles, however one leg is shorter than the other, so the beast tends to spin in a tight circle as it zooms across the Labian landscape. This creature is a whirlwind effect. This creates a whirlwind effect even that can prove particularly hazardous to trailer parks. So that's what causes tornadoes. A highly intelligent creature, the beast enjoys figuring out small puzzles and will often stop in the middle of a hunt to solve a matchstick puzzle, logic problem, or riddle, or a Kubik's Rube. Curiously though, the beast hates arcade sequences. Like me then. Latex babes. They're a race, actually? I guess so. These natives of the planet Estros are usually nubile humanoid females, although the occasional wily stringy male is not unheard of. Turn-ons include constructing the finest underwater craft in the galaxy, arc welding, and chopping. Turn-offs are Estrosian sea slugs, plaque build-up above the gum line, and two-timing janitors. Well, that explains a lot. Favorite foods are eelwerf sashimi and roasted dry-mouth gourami. Is there any more in this one? I don't think so. No. So then we go to N through R. And considering you will need one of these races, I guess they expect you to read through all of this. As any true adventurer would anyway. The Nose Nugget Nomads. These lumpen creatures toddle around the universe in wood-paneled station wagons, with their sack-like children in tow. They go on sightseeing tours that last upwards of 30,000 years. Oh, these are the guys we saw visiting Fester's World of Wonders on Fleabot in Spacecraft 3. During these tours, they make literally millions of slides, most of which show them waving high on every dinky little planet, asteroids, and intergalactic tourist trap in the Crab Nebula. During their hibernation phase, which lasts about 4,000 years, they have their film developed. When they waken, they watch their slides. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen during one of the Nose Nugget slideshows. I've seen slideshows like that. Nose Nuggets pride themselves on their gustatorial, I'm not entirely sure what that means, flexibility. They eat whatever foods aren't native to the location they're visiting. On planets where the natives subsist mainly on nose nuggets, this presents the nose nuggets with a difficult situation, in which they often end up having to eat themselves. That is taking it a bit too far. Or rats. On a stick, possibly. These aggressive carnivores have been the bane of visitors to the planet Corona for hundreds of years. Hulking and heavily muscled, Orats walk on two powerful hind legs. They enjoy crushing other lifeforms with their massive forearms. They also enjoy basketball, and often combine the two by playing a quick game of one-on-one with a recent catch, as we have personally observed. Interestingly, or not, the flesh of the Orat is highly prized for its flavor and buttery texture. It's found as a common ingredient in the cuisines of several different planets. As a result, there's a burgeoning black market in Orat poaching. For that reason, the Orat is considered an endangered species, but nobody seems to mind except for a few chefs. Yeah, I wouldn't particularly care if they died out. The Pestilon Monochrome Boys from Space Quest 4. You won't find the Monochrome Boys in their native habitat. These foul-mouthed, belligerent beasts spend most of their time zipping around on heartly drama mines, bullying weaker lifeforms and tinkering with their hogs.
You summon the...
Oh. Not their motorcycles, but their real hogs. Don't ask, you don't want to know. The Monochrome Boys are so named because of their unusual white and grey pigmentation. The blotchy blemishes are partly responsible for their sour demeanor. Do not make eye contact. Should they force a confrontation, do not call them Monochrome or Boys. It's alright for them to call each other Monochrome, but it's not okay for anyone else. I love double standards. The diet of Monochrome Boys consists mainly of any other lifeform that has a light, crunchy exoskeleton. Which fortunately does not include janitors. The Fleabot Pod Snatchers, who we once used to kill a killer android. The only other lifeform indigenous to Fleabot other than the Fleabot-tinskis, Pod Snatchers hang from the purplish rock formations that dot the landscape. They attach themselves by means of a strong, solid muscle, and their tough, chitinous outer shell protects them from potential predators. At birth, the Pod Snatchers cannot focus on its prey. Fortunately, it has glands located near its tear ducts that secrete a liquid glass that hardens and forms a lens over the eye, usually in about an hour. Imagine that, lenses in about an hour. That is quite fast. The pot snatcher then looks down from its upside-down perch, and up rolls a sticky, extensible tongue that can pick up an enemy 250 times his own weight, snag a fly moving over 35 kph, or perform several dubious tricks designed to get onto Quadrant 12's funniest home videos. Their favorite food is flea batinskis, but since there are no flea batinskis left on the planet, they mostly eat sand, or the occasional janitor or killer android. The flea batinskis then? On Fleabot, the laws of natural selection are clearly illustrated, particularly in how they can sometimes go horribly awry and produce a poorly adapted race totally incapable of surviving its native habitat. The creatures native to Fleabot are collectively called Fleabatinskis, or blats for short. They have 3 fingers, which end in suction cups, ideal for grasping small prey or souvenirs. They have oversized pupils for seeing in dim light, large yellow incisors for cutting through food, and long narrow nostrils to protect against inhaling most foreign objects. Unfortunately, the planet of Fleabot, a greenish dust ball, has no small prey to grasp, is brightly lit throughout the day and night cycle, features deposits of naturally occurring pulpy food, which must be gummed extensively before being swallowed, and has rock formations which cast off long, narrow slivers of mica, which are easily inhaled by the blats. These mica slivers can cause extensive lacerations of the sinus cavities. Thus, any blat who is unfortunate enough to survive the atmosphere typically loses his teeth, goes blind, or starves quickly. In fact, there's only one known currently surviving blats, who has moved off of Fleabot to seek a more hospitable environment, and started a shop named Implants and Stuff on Polysorbate. The Pinkins. The Pinkins are a race of many contrasts. They're so cute you just want to eat them up, but you can't because they're very tough, and you can chew them for hours without making any headway. Which is alright because they taste horrible. They live on Labian and create elaborate warrens or dents. They also swim through the Labian swamps with ease, since they use certain berries to repel the swamp slurpees that inhabit the Martians at base. However, the berries are ineffective against the monstrous killer cave beavers, who invade the dens and feast on the Pinkins within. The cave beavers are not intelligent enough to figure out how tough and chewy the Pinkins are, and often sample every Pinkins in the den before realizing that none of them are tender enough to eat. Pinkins are herbivorous, so they only eat creatures named Herb. Sure, that's what it means. They will also eat the young shoes of the wandering atheist. Why is that in the replicator? Alright, final group of letters. The Sirians. The Sirians are a humanoid race. Treacherous, evil, but always eager to please, the Sirians make wonderful hosts, especially if you're their enemy. They pride themselves on their technique on torture, mutilation, disfigurement, napkin folding, and selecting the right wine to go with whichever enemy they're eating. It's sort of murder, arson, and jaywalking here. They're also very easily offended should you insinuate that they're doing less than their best to grind you into a fine red paste. Sirians are omnivores, preferring to eat old black issues of Omni. Sure, old back issues, by the way. Space monkeys! Billions of years ago, the planet Siriania was devastated by a collision with an asteroid. All water evaporated from the ecosystem. Every day the inhabitants survived was a victory. Eventually, all life perished, or so it was believed. Many of the life forms adapted by encapsulating themselves in cyst-like eggs. When these eggs are immersed in water, they hatch. One such life form was known as the brine monkey, a tiny water-breathing simian. Serino Products mined the planet for its huge deposit of brine monkey eggs. While they were at it, they also mined encysted brine apes, brine marsupials, and brine aardvarks. Serino has since marketed the monkey eggs under the trademark name Space Monkeys in comic books. Space monkeys prefer space food sticks, or tangy, piquant brine bananas. Sure. Wow, finally a reference to Space Quest 5. Spiny alien fangs. Spiny alien fangs are a marvel of adaptive ability. With exoskeletons far too cumbersome to permit traditional reproductive techniques, spiny alien fangs have learned to propagate by kissing. This is not a little platonic kiss. It contains a fertilized eggs, which head straight for the victim's stomach. Here it absorbs nutrients for days or weeks, like a parasite, only, well, just like a parasite. When it senses the most dramatic moment possible, it bursts forth from the stomach in a spectacular display of special effects. This explosion naturally kills the host. But isn't it worth it for all the cool gore, especially if the host was merely an extra and not a highly paid guest star? This is the alien that kisses you in Space Quest 2. And finally, the only one we actually need, the Vulgars. The Vulgars are a peaceful race of brilliant and logical thinkers, whose only real joy in life is to stride around the galaxy with superior attitudes and correct other people's grammar and spelling. Those are the worst kind of people. They also enjoy designing outer space strategy simulation games. This makes them nearly as insufferable as university academicians, but not as well paid. Considering their placid and studious lifestyle, it's interesting to note that the Vulgars have developed an extremely practical martial arts technique called the Vulgar Nerve Pinch. This is a tactile oral maneuver in which the pincher pinches the bundle of nerve fibers at the base of the neck while whispering dialogue from either Tango and Cash or Hudson Hawk. This particular combination of stimuli results in a searing flash of pain and then unconsciousness, which can last for several hours. The technique is demonstrated in HoloJoint program number 5551212. That's the only piece of information we'll actually need in the game. Well, that's the races. But we're not actually done yet. There's also ship's functions and the science database. The ship's functions include the HoloJoints. The HoloJoint can recreate any environment for which a program exists. To start a program, enter the program number and press enter. Warning, all materials in the HoloJoint are made from Vertiplast, a virtual material that cannot exist outside the HoloJoint environment. Attempting to remove any Vertiplast items from the HoloJoint environment will result in their immediate disintegration. So don't think you're going to go in there and conjure up something useful and then leave and expect it to still be in your inventory. Good to know. Food Replicator. Food replicators are available in many ships' locations. To use, enter the number of the desired foodstuff. Menus are available in the seat pocket in front of you. If there is no seat pocket in front of you, try looking behind you. If there is no seat pocket behind you, just hail the waiter and request one. If there is no waiter in sight, please wait and one will be with you shortly. Somehow I doubt it. And the science database. Current medical issues. Starcon Hardware Subdirectives W411923 recommends that humanoid lifeforms ingest no more than 10% of calories from fat. Therefore, Kung Pao chicken has been deprogrammed from the replicator menu list. Ah. Starcon would like to congratulate Dr. Beveridge Crusher on her self-administered balloon angioplasty. This procedure uses a tiny inflatable balloon to compress a blockage against the sides of a vessel. Self-administered congrats are in order to Scott Murphy for finally figuring out how to firmly wedge his head between his own cheeks. I guess that's good to know. And the periodic table. For more information on this, please see Volume 2, Issue 1 of Sanitation Hotspots. This is actually in the manual. Or, you know, any science book. Because it's the periodic table. It's not exactly a secret. Alright, I guess that's it for the compost, and we'll go actually do something useful in the next video.